The same time while Philip and Alex were talking, Andrew spared a word for Cathy. I'm sorry this happened unexpectedly. We were looking for you all around the campus, and one of my men even went to the library, but you can't be found. I didn't call you because if ever you're in class, your professors dislike distractions. You told me that.
It's all right, Andrew. No one is to be blamed. But I wonder why Philip was here. Andrew replied, he attended a meeting with the board of trustees at the hotel, and the meeting was adjourned early, so he decided to come by here. I was surprised as you were. I only learned of his presence when he called me up, telling me to tell you that you will ride with him. Nighttime in the villa is so quiet, but for Cathy, it was nerve-wracking. Her pacing on the floor seemed like a mile, and it was so emotionally draining for her. All of a sudden, 2 hard knocks came to her attention, and when she rushed to open the door, Philip swung the door with a stern expression on his face.
His dark stare at her made her body twitch. She stepped back, trembling in fear. She had never seen this side of Philip before, and she was very frightened. How long had this been going on between you and Alex Thompson? Didn't I tell you that you're forbidden getting involved with a guy? Just because I told my men to give you some space, there you were flirting around. The worst was you flirted with a wrong guy.
You're wrong, Philip. I never flirted with him. He wanted us to be friends and then, Cathy stammered.
And then what, Cathy? You allowed him to hang out with you until he got. You fall for him, right? You were so thrilled that here was a rich, popular guy who was willing to give you the best attention you've ever got, to make all the girls swooning over him jealous of you. And you have it, disregarding our agreement for the thrill of it. Am I right?
No. You're mistaken. I didn't flirt with him. But because of his persistence, I was caught off guard until I realized that I was already his girlfriend. It happened so fast, and I couldn't even say no. I couldn't back out either because he was all around me all the time, and our relationship spread around like a wildfire. I felt trapped, and I don't know how to get out of it. So I just went with the flow.
Philip stared at her for so long, then he spoke. I can't believe this. You just went with the flow. Are you that naive that you let him do as he pleases? Did he, Cathy?
You may call me naive, but I am not that innocent. I know how to take care of myself. I may be tied to him as his girlfriend, but I won't be taken for a ride. I may be carried away, spurned at the moment because of his display of deep affection for me, but I know when to get out of it if ever the circumstance comes up.
Philip held her arms and gripped so hard that Cathy couldn't move, frightened by the way he stared at her. He looked vicious as he pulled her closer, holding her waist tightly. He spoke gruffly, "You're mine, Cathy. All mine. No one could ever own you but me. You were sold to me, so no one could ever trespass to my property."
Cathy was terrified, imprisoned in his arms. Aggressively. Then, the fear that took over Cathy happened. Then, he continued to kiss her, and then his hand slipped under her dress. She felt unable to resist that masculine strength overwhelming her consciousness with the feeling that ripped through her body. Finding herself on her back and Philip on top of her, she tried to push him away, but his strength overpowered her. And after the initial pain, she found herself responding until Philip was back to his senses. Cathy began to sob, and Philip rose up and turned away, leaving Cathy weeping. When he reached the door of her bedroom, he took a quick glance at her, then left.
Philip entered his bedroom, angry of himself. He walked towards the balcony and breathed deeply. He could not imagine what transpired between them. She could have stopped me, had she? Then that moment flooded back, recalling in between her sobs. Were her pleadings, begging him to stop. What have I done?
Cathy rose up and felt her entire body aching as if it had fallen apart, feeling sore as she moved. She buried her face with her hands in anguish. She kept on crying, bereft of her own self. She felt numbness despite the pain inflicted all over her, while mixed emotions welled up in her chest. Never in her wildest imagination that the man she secretly admired and loved would force himself to hers. What pains her more deeply is, he has no feelings for her. She was just his property sold to him to be owned forever. After an hour of lamenting her sorrow, she stood up still aching, and in front of the mirror, she saw herself, a pitiful young woman who had gone through a tragical experience of having her innocence taken forcibly. And what hurts most was that her sanctity was taken from her with no feelings of shame and regret. She was just left there alone like a soiled rag. Once again, she cried in sorrow. Then she walked inside the bathroom to wash herself, trying to remove the pain and grief she felt. That hopefully may wash out the painful memory of that moment and the stain of disgrace that enveloped her entirety. She laid down on her bed to get some sleep so she can forget even momentarily the excruciating pain she went through in the hands of Philip. But her mind kept on playing that moment, seeing Philip's dark face who succeeded in subduing her strength. For Cathy, that was a moment of insanity that she couldn't put off from her imagination.